Hello, Mr. Shankar. Welcome. Can you please introduce yourself, what you do and where you come from? And yeah.
I, first of all, thank you for having me on this program, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And my name is Shankar Chatterjee, and I come from India, but I live in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, and I'm living here for the last 12 years. This is my 13th year now. Um, what I do, I am actually into the business of supply chain, global supply chain, logistics, and international procurement and trading, which I've specialized on for the last 3 decades. This is my 35th year at work. Um, I worked prior to this with two global companies, and right now I founded the company about 13 years ago in UAE, and we have companies in India and another company registered out of the USA in Pennsylvania. We specialize in large projects, and that's what we generally uh, believe is a very specialized job, and it's not normal logistics. There's a lot of planning which goes behind that kind of work, and I specialize in that. So that's my job.
Okay. So you would consider yourself as an entrepreneur. Um, and I just want to ask, what is your general perspective of entrepreneurship? Like, what is your take on it?
First of all, I have always believed that some people call themselves entrepreneur, some call themselves executives. Fundamentally, it's all about work, notwithstanding which designation, nomenclature, whatever else you carry, you're finally doing a job. The only difference is some jobs pay you, and some jobs you pay others using your capability. And that is what I personally believe is what they often call as business or entrepreneurship, where you become responsible for creating wealth, creating money, creating businesses, creating structures, creating people in terms of their careers and opportunities. And above everything else, you create opportunities. And that's what the brilliance of this whole world of entrepreneurship is. But I must quickly hasten to add something which I firmly believe in. There is nothing in the world of business called small business. Many people you will find, even if you go into your LinkedIn, they'll tell you small business. I have a serious problem with small business as a nomenclature. There could be small transactions, but there's nothing called a small business, because the finest people in every business dare to create business. The rest of them just earn a salary.
Yeah.
So that for me is real entrepreneurship.
Okay.
It's a different problem, but in the business world, you'll realize very few business schools today teach you how to create business, teach you how to create new opportunities. They effectively teach you how to pick up a job. And the day this changes, the world will create a lot more many opportunities than it exists today.
Thank you for your take on entrepreneurship. Um, so what inspired you to start your company as an entrepreneur? What was your main motivation for this?
Okay, what I didn't like and what I was doing, I'll tell you that first. I was the CEO of global companies, and so basically, I didn't roll too many times. I had basically worked for two large companies. And in my capacity when I was heading Asia for a global company, I realized that very often in worldwide organizations, you tend to get lost in the size. You tend to start writing more reports than meeting more customers. And that's not the ethos of business. I felt that it's a good idea to create something which is different, completely away from what the world has seen before. Because just doing another business, just carrying another business card, honestly was not my cup of tea. In my mind, I was more of a person who was taking decisions, wanting to do something new, creating jobs for people, enjoying the fact that they would all go and smile at home at the end of the evening. That is what I wanted to see in this world. And that's what led me to believe that when I'm bound by the shackles of employment, I will possibly not be able to do it, notwithstanding how much I get paid. Let me also tell you quickly before I end this particular point that sometimes becoming the CEO of a company is a lot cheaper than creating business from zero. If you talk to the topmost CEOs of the world, you will find that 9, maybe more than 9 out of 10 would not even dare to create a business. They would be happy sitting in a corner office and enjoying a good life.
Yeah.
My life was quite a paradox that way, because I had started young in my early 20, and I was a management trainee to a managing director. It took me about 10 years. And then I moved on to creating businesses for a global company. But the day I decided to create businesses for people who will create a global company, that by itself was a major decision. And as I say, if you remember the name of that movie, Where the Eagles Dare, my life is exactly that. That we moved out of the comfort zone of employment and got into doing something which is good for everybody. And I wanted to not become just a successful businessman, but I wanted to actually make successful people who will create a business. And that's what led me to it.
Okay. Yes. And so what other opportunities, like entrepreneurial opportunities, have you done other than maybe making a new company?
First of all, the company is just a vehicle. Does it?
Mm-hmm.
Company is what is a company? Company is nothing but a vehicle. And you're riding that vehicle. What makes a company is the people who sit in that vehicle. What creates that vehicle is the brilliance of the people who actually operate that vehicle. Because a vehicle is finally a vehicle, right?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about a scenario which happened about 13 years ago. And that time there was no COVID. There was no digital revolution that we are now talking about. And I went into a board meeting in Hamburg and I said to my company's board that it's high time that you change the philosophy and digitalize the entire operation, because you are tending to look the same from your competitors. There's no difference. What they are doing, we are saying the same thing. We proclaim a little louder that we do it better, but actually speaking, we are saying the same things. You are creating another presentation which also looks the same. Just the colors are different. And I said, you cannot actually run the future of this business this way. You have got to change. Because if you don't change now, someone will change you and you will become smaller. At some point of time, you will become insignificant, because that's what has happened to so many businesses, right? So with this backdrop, I thought of digitalizing the entire operation. One of the biggest mistakes which my industry, supply chain industry, makes is when they divorce procurement and supply chain from each other. And I want to actually digitally marry the same, you know. So my first job was to go back and tell my wonderful company where I used to be the CEO that, why didn't you think of this? And they said, come on, let's do the existing thing correctly and do this, do that, and all the rest of it. And that's when I said to myself, this is not exactly what the future looks like. We need to digitally revolutionize the world, show the world what they've never seen before. But the problem is there, because the moment you do that, what happens is you are walking into a terrain which no one has ever treaded. You've gone into a path where there's no empirical evidence. No one has seen the numbers before. And we walk into that scenario where we suddenly have a new delta, a complete new situation with nothing to prove to anybody except your conviction. And 9.9 investors do not trust you. They don't trust you. They talk of innovation all the time. If you sit down and see the investor world, they'll talk of innovation. They'll talk of every nice thing that you can think of. But every one of them are looking for a background data or something who did it before you. They're all followers. They're not leaders. So as a consequence of which, I put my own money into the company and started the company. And trust me, I put a lot of money into it. And it wasn't easy, because you knew that you are doing a bungee jump, but you also knew that you've not tied your feet well enough. But you had to dare to do it. And I'm glad I did it. I'm very glad I did it. It takes its own amount of pain with it, but at some point of time you realize that the pleasure of being successful kind of wipes away all the tears that goes behind the pain.
Yeah. So when it comes to identifying these opportunities, are you doing it in a way that you see external events and you are reacting to external events, or is it more that you see that something isn't made and you want to make it? So how do you identify these new opportunities?
First thing about the quality of a person who has to be successful in form of being an entrepreneur is that you've got to think ahead. And you have to think differently. If you did what another 2,000 people did, then you're really not required. But there are some clerical entrepreneurs like that as well. But if you tend to do something slightly different and you think ahead of times, then you come up with an innovative idea which other people may not have thought about. The other thing is, when you talk innovation, you're not actually talking about turning the whole table upside down. It is actually learning from all the mistakes that you made in life and understanding what the client needs and where is the gap, where are the pain points, what is it that the world has not offered so far, which you could possibly, due to your experience, be able to do it better. And then you create a product around that. In the books of economics, and I'm sure you're reading the same now, it tells you that demand cannot be created. But one man who proved it completely wrong as a theory was Steve Jobs. He created a product which created the demand. So long and short of what I'm trying to tell you is that if you go back into the entrepreneurship as a practice, then you have to think ahead of time, think differently. You don't have to do different things, but do it logically and do it better. Create a product which others have not been able to provide. Once you're able to do that, you will will tend to get people who are like-minded.
Yeah.
Don't ever, as an entrepreneur, look for superstars, because superstars in business come at a cost, and they are more hyped than their capabilities. So sometimes you need to bring in people who believe in your theory, who believe in your vision, who believe in your dream. I'm not saying that you need to bring in psychopaths, but at the same time, you need to create a team which can look up the sky and say, well, that's how the moon looks, and this is where we wish to reach, right? And they should see the moon exactly with the same color of eye that you are. Because if you do not have a unification of vision with your team, chances are you'll be spending a lot of time keeping on explaining to people that why you're still right. You can't afford to do that because you're already spending a lot of time doing that with your potential investors, associates, partners. But your core team has to see the vision exactly the way you do.
Yeah.
And then you have a unified approach and chain of command.
And so then what do you think are the most important traits for an entrepreneur?
This reminds me of a television interview I once did in my previous company.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I had about plus 25 years of experience. And they asked me, what is your single largest achievement? And I said, it's not the millions or billions that we were sitting on as a company. I said, the one thing that I've achieved in life is that everyone who I worked with are today directors and above in their respective fields. So which means that I've been able to create some people, and I did something right for them in their life. When I'm saying creating people, it does not mean that I created their inner structures, but I helped them to bloom and grow into efficient managers. So one of the primary things of an entrepreneur is to believe that you don't know everything, but to have the confidence to lead a team of people who know it. Because sometimes, in the game of cricket, for instance, if you follow cricket, or even if you follow football, the captain is not necessarily the best player, but the captain is someone who congregates the team. So that's quality number one. Quality number two is giving the team the feeling that everyone is needed with equal opportunity. Because, the goalkeeper of any country is not the one who is scoring the goal like Lionel Messi. But the goalkeeper is so important because if he was not in the goal, they will concede goals no matter how many goals Messi or Ronaldo scores. Mm. So you have to have a team where every single person will have to be told that you are the best in what you do. And unified, we will go and win the cup. That's how you become a winner. And that quality is what is a good entrepreneur all about. So you have to manage people. You have to manage the commercials of a company. You've got to manage the future vision of the company. You've got to manage the ethics of the company, which very few people do. It's not just bringing up a big company or creating a big, large business house. It is also creating the right template of ethics around your organization. This is not just external ethics with law or compliance. It is also the internal ethics in terms of how you manage people, how you respect them, how you look after them. So there's a lot of in-house element and external element to it. Yeah. And then you have the ability as an entrepreneur to foresee, as I call myself, that my intuition never lies to me. If your intuition is good, I tell you something, that you will always be successful. Never disbelieve your intuition, because your mind always tells you what's coming. Mm-hmm. The day you start sitting in a meeting, you start hearing what other people are not saying, you will realize that you've become very successful, because then you know exactly what's coming to you. So forecasting a problem, forecasting a situation, getting prepared for that. These are all the elements of a good, successful person in the entrepreneurship. And besides all of this, I think managing people and creating people like you, even better than you, is what will make it.
And within maybe all these traits that you've mentioned, which one do you think is the best one for you that has helped you pushed you with all your entrepreneurial opportunities?
I keep asking myself a question every morning and every night. In the morning, I tell myself, what am I supposed to do the whole day? And if I do not get a good answer, I feel very sad. At the end of the evening, before I hit the bed, which is around 3 a.m. or close to 4 sometimes in the morning, because I work more than 18 hours a day. At that point of time, I tell myself, Mr. Chatterjee, you spent 16 hours today. Did you achieve something or you just wasted time? What did you do? So the self-question is what keeps me going. And this also motivates me in my own life. Sometimes when the chips are down, when no one is around to help you, that's the time you have to pep yourself up and still tell yourself that you're worth it. As an entrepreneur, it's like this. When you board a flight, they say first put the oxygen in your own face. If there is a downward pressure of oxygen, before you give it to others. You have to be, first of all, in love with your thoughts. You have to convince yourself that you believe in what you're doing. Imagine if I think that I'm not worth doing what I'm doing, I would never be able to find another 2 people to believe me. Forget about investors. So in my opinion, the leading quality a person should have is to be able to tell yourself you're worth it and what you're out to achieve is good, and then you build the case around it. But don't get married to a point so badly that if need be, you cannot change or tweak some of your fallacies or shortfalls. Sometimes people who start loving themselves, like most politicians do, you will tend to believe that that's where the downfall starts, because you need to come to a point where you tell yourself that, listen, I'm not invaluable. I can also make mistakes. And if there are some, I need to change them. So this humility is also important in the entrepreneurship abilities. Once you have that, I think you tend to be a lot more successful.
Okay. And how about dealing with challenges as an entrepreneur? How did you deal with different challenges or uncertainties?
Let's put it this way. The challenges will be there. But again, I go back to the same point that, you tend to believe that you will overcome the challenge. You got to keep telling and talking to yourself. And there is no lock ever made in this world which doesn't have a key. None. Not one. Every lock has a key. It's a different thing. Some people forget the password or whatever. But even then, there is a key to it. And I can tell you that there's no challenge in the world which cannot be overcome. And this is the fundamental truth you got to talk to yourself with first. Number 2, many of us, we tend to make one mistake, and I also make that mistake sometimes, that we tend to carry our burden and our pressures and our frustrations either back home, or we tend to, paste it around our team, which is not a great quality. And I can tell you that I make the same mistake sometimes. Sometimes, you are faced with a situation which really is so cursed that you don't deserve it. But at that point of time, to raise yourself up, talk to yourself and say, listen, let the day pass by. This will change. The day you do that arrangement with yourself, I can tell you that the rest of the problem is very easy to solve. Now, one formula which I follow very easily when I've been reasonably successful is the question why. Whenever I face a problem, I've always asked why. And I get an answer. Then I ask why. By the time you ask the same question why 5 times, the problem is not there.
Okay.
Easy.
One last question is, do you think anyone can be an entrepreneur?
No.
No.
No. No.
And why?
The answer is, you know, when God made us and sent us to this world, which I hope that's what it happened like, opportunities were equal. Equal. It's just that someone was born as a man, someone was born as a woman. Someone came to India, someone went to Indonesia. Someone unfortunately went to Palestine. But at the end of the day, every one of us were born with equal capability and opportunities. But how we grow up and under what circumstances we grow up also chisels our future. So everyone doesn't have that opportunity. The way your parents possibly can afford to send you to a wonderful place to study, a lot of people, a lot of children are not exactly that well endowed. So what happens is, over a period of time, it kind of blunts a certain skill set from a person. And then they go into the other option, that what is the other option for me to then rise and grow in life? So some people choose a job, some people choose a profession, some people choose a vocation. So nobody really has to choose entrepreneurship. But my simple submission to all the children who are studying today is that if you become entrepreneurs in the times to come, you will create more jobs than working for one of the big 4 consulting firms. Because that will only pay you a salary. But when you become the source of other people's salary and happiness, imagine how beautiful this world will be.
Yes, okay. That is all the questions. Thank you so much. If you have any maybe last remarks you want to say, you can.
Keep enjoying what you're doing. Love the work that you do. Enjoy the studies. Don't study in, mug formulas, because you have to know why the formula is what it is. Always ask the question why. It's a beautiful question. It will help you both in your professional as well as in your personal life. That's my learning.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, dear. Thank you so much. Take care.